My name is Jake Rhodes. I'm a researcher with Microsoft Developer Division, and I'll be your host for today's event. If this is your first event, let me tell you a little bit about the group. We are UX Research and Strategy, a meetup nonprofit with the mission of helping the global community with skills related to UX research and strategy while making connections with folks in the network, the broader UX community. So you can find us on social media, including Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, to name just a few. If UX research is your jam, make sure that you're following us on social media so you can stay up to date with what's coming up. We regularly host networking and speaker events like this one monthly, so you can find most of our previous events on YouTube. We will have a member of our event staff in a moment drop a link to our link tree so you can access all of those links to our social media in one place. Also, being researchers, we're going to be really interested in your feedback on today's event. Your input will help us make our events better. So hang out, take part in the discussion, and give us your feedback so we can continue to improve on our events. Look for that link to our survey in Zoom chat as well later in today's presentation. Next, we'd also love to have you continue this conversation after today's event through our Slack community. This is a great place for you to meet other UX folks, talk about all things UX news, UX tools, methods, career, you name it. So we'll drop a link to that as well in Zoom chat with information on joining our Slack community. Some quick housekeeping on upcoming events. Next, we have an event scheduled for February 12th at 5 p.m. a networking extravaganza. This is going to be another great event too, so make sure you grab a ticket for that. Look for that, a link to that sign up in Zoom chat later today. We also have other upcoming events. I'm really looking forward to this next one as well. We're really excited to announce that in March, we will have a great speaker event. What is the UX researcher job with Karen Holtzblatt, who you may know them from their connection with contextual inquiry and contextual design. So tickets aren't available for this yet, but they will go on sale in our Slack community on February 1st. We'll be offering an early bird special discount for our Slack community members. So if you want to grab a discount ticket, make sure you're a member of our Slack community and then head over there to access that ticket when they become available. I am excited to introduce our speaker today, Accelerating Jobs to be Done with Jim Kalbach. Jim, welcome. I've been looking forward to hearing you speak.
Right.
Please take it away.
Yeah, thanks so much. I've been looking forward to speaking to you all. Thanks for having me. Good evening, good morning, good day, whatever time of day it is for you in the world. I am Jim Kalbach, and I'm going to be talking about jobs to be done. My name is Jim Kalbach, the author of several books. I have a background in UX and innovation. The latest one, the Jobs to be Done playbook, came out in 2020. That's what we're going to be talking about today, particularly in the context of AI. I'm also the co-founder of the Jobs to be Done toolkit. If you haven't seen that resource yet, it's an online resource with some free downloads. We also have a new course that we just launched there on some of the things that I'm going to be talking about today. And we do some live workshops. We don't have any announced right now, but check out Jobs to be Done toolkit. I'll be pointing to that a little bit more. I realize, and I've talked to this group before, so I realize a lot of you know what Jobs to be Done is probably, and maybe even use some of the techniques. But I just wanted to frame it a little bit up front and give you my perspective on Jobs to be Done. I like to go back to this quote from Theodore Levitt. People don't want a drill, they want a hole in the wall. Now, he was a famous Harvard business professor in the 60s and 70s. And this is what he used to like to tell his students. I think the essence of Jobs to be Done is in this quote. Sometimes people pick the actual words apart. Well, yeah, they don't want a hole in the wall, blah, blah, blah. It's a higher order thing. That's fine. For me, though, the juxtaposition of the drill, a product or a solution, to the hole in the wall, that's the important point of this quote, not the semantics of these words. The fact that if you're a drill manufacturer, you're concerned about making drills and selling drills and marketing drills and supporting drills, right? And that's all great. And if you're an MBA student at Harvard, he's saying that's great. People might relate to your product, but if we want to innovate we might want to shift our perspective, right? So go ahead and make your drills and market them and sell them. But let's stop for a second and think about what they're trying to get done. They want a hole in the wall. So for me, when I hear this quote, I hear this flip of perspective. And the flip of perspective is a shift away from you and your brand and your product to what the individual that you're trying to serve is trying to get done. Let's start there and work back towards the technology, not the other way around, right? So it's about starting from a different perspective and working backwards. When you do that, you often find opportunities that you might have otherwise overlooked, right? So it's really about a perspective shift. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that works. But jobs to be done, although Theodore Levitt never used the phrase jobs to be done himself, a lot of people point back to this quote. The field has been around for over 3 decades now. And a lot of people credit Clayton Christensen with first kind of popularizing the term. But this idea of focusing on the individual isn't new in and of itself. The practice of jobs to be done, however, gives us a really robust framework and a unique way to do that. And we'll talk more about that. A little bit more about my perspective on jobs to be done. I believe jobs to be done predicts adoption, right? Because if we're in the innovation business, and by the way, I'm using that term very broadly, innovation is any change that you introduce into a product or service that eventually has consumers or people in your market that use that product or solution. What you're trying to do is you're trying to predict adoption, right? You're trying to, in advance, right? Because if you think about the innovation process, you come up with an idea, you might test it and develop it, and then you spend money to launch it. And you have this question, will anybody use it? And what jobs to be done is saying is you have higher chance of success downstream after the thing launches if you know the job to be done in advance and can try to target and focus on getting that job done in your innovation cycle, right? And we don't just necessarily want the innovators or the people at the top of the adoption curve. We want to try to get the majorities as well too. So I believe jobs to be done is ultimately about product adoption, which, by the way, is very different than product demand. This isn't about demand generation. It's not about getting more sales necessarily, although that's part of it, right? It's really about creating something, putting something out in the world that people really need and that they pull that into their lives. And in the jobs to be done vernacular, they talk about hiring a service, right? So if we know the job in advance, we can innovate better with higher chances of success. It's still only chances. There's no guarantees. There's still lots of things that can go along the way. But I like to think about jobs to be done in terms of adoption. And this curve, by the way, many of you have probably seen it, was not created by Jeffrey Moore. It's actually Everett Rogers, who far earlier than Jeffrey Moore did a lot of research into the diffusion of innovation and why people adopt. And I believe jobs to be done plays in that. Another way to say it really quickly is product market fit. That's what jobs to be done helps you do. It helps you understand the market so you can create the product that fits into the market. Again, not the other way around. You don't come out with a product and say, hey, let me look for a market now. It's no, we know the market. Let's get a product that fits into it. So product market fit as well. We're going to do a quick exercise here. I've done this before. I'm sorry. I apologize for people who've seen me talk before. But I like to do a little quick warm up here just to demonstrate a little bit about the thinking of jobs to be done. It's not about drills. It's about holes. Let's go to the chat here. I'm going to open up my chat pane. And what job, if I can find the chat, what job does coffee get done for you? And I'm not asking that rhetorically. Yeah, thanks. Waking up. Yeah, that's a good one. And there might be multiple answers here. Makes you happy. I like that one. Thank you, Anna Paula, for that. Make you happy. Meeting friends. That's a really good one, Pedro. And that's the one that people always kind of forget when I do this exercise, that there's a social function of coffee, right? You can meet at 4 p.m. on Sunday without having to have dinner. Oh, yeah. The focus. That's interesting, too. Jasmine, give me energy. I'm going to actually latch on to that one. By the way, none of these are right or wrong. They're all possible answers at this point in time. But using the jobs to be done framework, we have some specific language that I'm going to get into in a second. I would formulate the job of coffee as get energy in the morning. Get energy in the morning. So if I formulate it that way, coffee helps you get energy in the morning. How else might you get energy in the morning? Let's go back to the chat and let's think of other ways you might get energy in the morning. Shower. Yeah, that's great. You started off with the shower. Yeah. Very often there's something around movement or exercise. I see yoga and walking going by. There's some physical activity that you might do. And then the other category is very often water of some kind, an ice bath. Wow. I haven't seen that one, but maybe just a shower, cold shower, but even just a shower, I'll take that one. Someone had tea in there. I saw tea and alternative beverages, cinnamon tea in there as well too. That's another category as well too. So you could do exercise or physical activity, use cold water, an alternative beverage, and those are all right answers as well too. The point here is though, if you're a coffee manufacturer and you're staring at coffee beans all day long because you own a roastery, let's say, you're probably thinking that you compete with other coffee roasters, right? Which is not a bad perspective to have of the world. And you should certainly be aware of your direct competition in the marketplace. If we flip the perspective, though, through the lens of jobs to be done, coffee actually competes with yoga, cinnamon tea, and a cold shower, right? Because from the job performer's perspective, there's different ways that you can get energy in the morning, right? So the quote about the drill and the hole in the wall, I just wanted to kind of demonstrate that quickly to show that having a perspective shift can open up new lines of thinking, right? We don't compete with other coffee roasters. We compete with yoga and tea and Red Bull or whatever it might be, right? It kind of flips your perspective, right? And that's the opportunity, I think, that Theodore Levitt was trying to hint in his quote about the drill and the hole in the wall. I'm going to jump right into some AI topics here, and I'm going to interleave that with some of my frameworks and approaches to jobs to be done. So that was a little bit of the theory. I want to get into the nuts and bolts here, but I want to frame it around AI. So I think AI and jobs to be done, tools like ChatGPT and jobs to be done, actually go well together for two main reasons. One is because jobs to be done is solution agnostic, right? We don't see a warm cup of caffeine and a saucer and coffee beans. We see energy, right? When we see the picture on my previous slide, it's solution agnostic. And because it's solution agnostic, I feel the way that large language models work actually fit into the jobs to be done framework pretty well, because you're not querying about how people like my product or how well they can use my specific product. You're talking in a very general sense. So there's kind of more nodes of information that can be included, and just the way that large language models work, being solution agnostic is powerful when you think about AI and jobs to be done. The second point is that jobs to be done uses a structured language and has lots of rules around formulation. For instance, we express the job to be done and the outcomes and the emotions that are associated with it and things like that with language. We use language in a very, very structured and precise way in jobs to be done. And I think that if you know how to drive tools like ChatGPT, that can work to your advantage. So with those two things in mind, we might come back to those, but because jobs to be done solution is not agnostic, and because it's structured language, I believe the framework works very well with AI, and I've had great results myself. What I want to do now is I want to kind of dive into my approach to jobs to be done, and start first of all with the jobs to be done canvas, which, by the way, isn't in my book. So these are things that I've developed and evolved since 2020 when my book came out. But you can download this for free on our website over at the Jobs to Be Done Toolkit. What this represents to me is it's kind of the key elements of the Jobs to Be Done framework, right? I mean, in a nutshell, and I'm talking to a group of user researchers here, so I hope this resonates with you. The world is messy and people are irrational. and they don't talk in, the linear way that businesses like. And it's our job to make sense of that, right? And I think a lot of you are probably very, very comfortable going out and embracing, the messy humanness of the markets that we serve. What Jobs to be Done offers, and the way I see this canvas in these categories, it's basically a big filter that when you're talking to people and they're talking in their own language at their own pace, and it's inconsistent in terms of how they're, comparing one interview participant to another, they're talking about the same thing using completely different words. What Jobs to be Done does is it helps us normalize things, by categories, and that's what's represented here on the canvas. These are kind of the 8 categories of information that you're listening for when you do research. And then each one of these has its own rules of formulation as well, too. So the canvas for me kind of represents the core elements that you're trying to listen for. This is what you're extracting. And then, like I said, each one of these has very clear rules of formulation. So it's all about language, right? We start with a verb for the target job, and then there's an object. We write emotional aspects and social aspects in a very, very consistent way. So what this allows you to do is do listening to the people that you're serving and putting them into discrete buckets of information that are very well formulated. That pairs with what I call the core process. This is also not in my book, and something that I evolved over the past 3 years since the book launched in 2020, a kind of a core process. So I believe that done, or even if you're trying to do advanced work, this is kind of where you start doing Jobs to be Done. 5 stages: scope, investigate, map, prioritize, and synthesize. What I wanted to do now is I want to go through those stages, thinking about the key elements in the canvas, and I want to show you a little bit how that kind of comes together and how AI can accelerate going through this process. All right, so stage number 1 is scoping your Jobs to be Done landscape. This entails working through the top part of the Jobs to be Done canvas. What field are you in, or what domain? You can think about that as industry. I like the word field a little bit better because industry sounds, I don't know, a little bit like Forrester or Gartner or something like that. It's like, no, what field are you in? Who do you want to innovate for, and where do you want to innovate? Those are 2 really key questions. You can think about this top part as framing your research. Anytime you go out and do research, you have to scope it and frame it, right? You're not just going to talk to any random person on the street about anything. You're going to talk to specific people about specific topics. That any research effort has its scoping. And in Jobs to be Done, we anchor our scoping around the target job. So the goal of this scoping, the step number 1 here, is not to fill out the top part of the canvas, but to use the top part of the canvas to figure out what your target job is. I mean, after all, it's Jobs to be Done, and the research is framed around that job to be done. And AI can help us do that. So even just determining what field you're in, for instance, you can use ChatGPT to get a head start. So you're not just staring at a blank piece of paper. Of course, a lot of you, you're working in a domain that you're very, very comfortable with. But even just thinking about who are the job performers in that field and what are the top jobs they're trying to get done are questions that ChatGPT can actually help you get further along after you determine the field that you're in. So here's the process, right? Determine the field that you're in, who you're going to innovate for. Think about all the jobs they're trying to get done, and then you nominate one of those to be your target jobs. So that's how we kind of work in this step number 1. That's how we work through the canvas. Again, once you decide on the target job, that frames the rest of your research, and everything is in relationship to that target job. So here's an example of a prompt. Who are the job performers in my field? This isn't not by any means a course on prompt engineering, but I've actually found that this prompt works pretty well right now. And the way that I think about using ChatGPT is around telling it what you're trying to do and kind of the frame your inquiry up front. In Jobs to be Done, we have these very clear definitions of things that we can slot in that next one. Okay, I'm looking for job performers. Give it a definition. I find giving ChatGPT examples really helps. and then telling it what you want the output to be and how you want it to be formulated. So all those rules of formulation come out here. And I actually want to try this really quick, if you guys don't mind. So let me see if you guys see this. Are you seeing my browser now? Are you seeing ChatGPT? Okay,
Yep,
thanks.
see your browser.
So I'm just going to put that prompt in here, and then I had some variables. I've been working in the field of real estate recently, so I'm just going to stay with that if you guys don't mind. And I'm not going to say real estate because that's the industry label. I'm going to say we're in the business of buying and selling homes, right? That's the way I like to formulate. Yeah, live demo. And then the other variable is here is how many job performers do I want, right? Okay. So let's say you work for I don't know, what is it, Redfin or Compass or Zillow or something like that, right? So you're in the business of buying, selling homes. You just want to brainstorm. Basically, the first task that I give people is do a stakeholder map, right? Think of all the stakeholders in your field. Let's see what we get back here. Anybody in the real estate business, by the way?
I have a house in Bellevue, I'll sell you.
Something you can do with your team, you own a mural canvas or whatever, and just, you do a stakeholder map and you think about it, right? But you can also use ChatGPT as part of your team, right? So I'm not saying this doesn't replace human thinking, but sometimes you're like, oh, I didn't think about that, right? So let's say we're in the field of buying and selling homes. We have the home buyer, home seller, real estate agent, real estate lawyer, home inspector, loan officer, mortgage lender, titling agent, appraiser, escrow officer, home stager. Wow, I wouldn't have even thought of that one, right? Property manager, right? I can ask it for more. I can say, put 20, give me 30 of them, and you get really granular, right? So it doesn't necessarily take away the human judgment. I mean, I just read through those and I kind of okayed them, in my language. You didn't hear the verbal check marks I was giving all of these. And then I got excited about the home stager because I wouldn't have thought of that one, actually. And by the way, that's the first time I've seen that come up with this example. So that's interesting there. So I feel that AI is very much complementary. Help you, and that's the acceleration. So if the first thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to scope our jobs to be done landscape and determine who our job performer is and what they're trying to get done, I already got a nice little head start there. It doesn't make the decision for me, but it helped me think through that in a very kind of quick way, I think. Then the next thing you need to do is you need to figure out what they're trying to get done, right? So for the sake of argument here, I'm just going to flip-flop here. I used to apologize for switching screens and stuff like that, but post-pandemic, like if you're not used to switching tabs and screens and stuff, I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal anymore, is it? Let me see if I can find that. Where's my ChatGPT though? Hold on 1 second. I got too many windows open. That's my problem right now. I literally can't find it. There it is. All right. So I'm going to put this prompt. I want home buyers. Let's say we're going to focus on home buyers. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, I skipped. Oh, sorry, I skipped a step. Sorry. I got the wrong prompt. Sorry. We're going to do this, the one I have in here next. Let me just get rid of that.
Also pasting in your image, I think.
Sorry about that. Yeah, what? Oh, I see.
Yeah, GPT-4 will do that.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we said, hey, we want to innovate for home buyers. We want to give them a great experience, and we're in the field of buying and selling homes. I'm just filling in my variables here. Selling homes. Okay, what are they trying to get done? Please list jobs. And again, I have here a definition of what I mean by a target job. But the first person verb and be singular in nature with no ands. Let's see if let's go to 20 and see what happens. All right, so I'm going to run this here. Certainly. Researching housing marketing, setting a budget, get pre-approved for a mortgage, create a wish list, search for properties, schedule viewings, evaluate neighborhoods, bid on a home, negotiate, secure financing. Those are pretty good top level jobs. I'd formulate some of them, like right off the bat, some of my spidey sense jobs to be done spidey senses, like, oh, I would never formulate it that way, but it helped me get a list of goals, objectives that a home buyer has in that field, right? Again, it's not replacing my human judgment. But now I have a list of in the what I call the related jobs. I'm going to go back and show that in a second. And maybe it's searching for properties. Maybe that's the one we want to focus on, right? But so you can see even just getting started at the beginning of the process that I'm sketching out here, ChatGPT can help quite a bit. So we're going to say home buyers. What did we say? Search for a property. I think that's what it said. Would I formulate it that way? I might change the formulation on that one. I'll leave it for now, though, just to be friendly to ChatGPT. You always want to be friendly to ChatGPT so that when it takes over the world, it won't forget you, right? I always thank it as well, too. So I've used ChatGPT to help me scope out the job performer, the target job. I had a list of I could take that list of jobs that it spit out and put these here. I call those related jobs, right? But for my research effort, I want to focus on searching for a property, right? How do I determine that? Well, there's some strategic questions that you have to know what's strategically relevant for you at this moment in time, where your focus is. Again, the same questions you have anytime you frame a research project is, well, why are you studying that thing at this time? Same thing when you pick a target job, is that you've declared, we want to understand searching for a property. If I move down a little bit further, now I'm in the second step is investigate. This is where I go out and do research, and jobs to be done research begins with qualitative research, right? So now from the bottom up, once I have my research framed, and by the way, that's why there's that big dark border there, because now everything is in relationship to search for a property. If I go out and I start talking to people and they start talking about moving or renovating their home, it's like, okay, that's nice to know. I want to know about searching for a property, right? So that's directing all of my inquiries now around searching for a property. I can use ChatGPT, and the 4 elements now that I want to know now come from the bottom up. This is where I go out and I talk to a dozen people or 20 people or whatever that is. And I want to know the job steps, the emotional and social aspects, the outcomes, and the job differentiators. Those are the things I'm listening for in my, interaction with the messy world. I'm trying to filter out exactly those things. And again, jobs to be done can help us here quite a bit, I think. I got one more prompt for us to try out here. So I want to know the job steps, right? I have a prompt here using my lightweight. And if you're like a really good prompt engineer, you're probably laughing at some of my prompts here, but you know what? They actually work. So home buyers trying to search for a property. So those are my 2 variables. So now I have home buyers searching for a property. I'm going to leave this at 12 down here, and I can put that in. I can think about what are the steps in getting that job done. And again, it's like, this isn't going to replace your judgment. It's not going to replace research out in the field, but it's very often insightful and gives you a head start. Let's just put it that way. And that's why we called the talk today accelerating research. It doesn't do the research. I think it accelerates it at each one of these steps. So determine new home criteria, identify sources to shop, learn about the market, set up alerts. Yeah, see, for me, this is a little bit too product centric, but I probably wouldn't include it, but there it is. Maybe there's another way to say that. Visit open houses. That's an interesting one. I probably wouldn't put that one in either. Seek available homes. I'll take that. Document homes, assess conditions, compare available homes. That's a big one. Select a home, consult with experts, place a bid. Not bad, right? I also, by the way, I find what I just did very, very helpful. If I know the domain I'm in and I want to get a job performer and a target job and start doing some of these job map exercises or job step exercises, it's really good if you're not familiar with the domain that you're in. I had a project once where I was working with compliance managers of mines in South Africa. I don't know anything about mining compliance, right? So you could start from a blank piece of paper and just go start out talking to 24 mining compliance managers. But I could also create a job map in advance now. Even if it's 80% right, now I'm going out into the field and I have an idea of what the order of things are, right? So again, I find ChatGPT can complement research greatly, in particular jobs to be done type research. There are more and more tools out there that are already calibrated for jobs to be done. For instance, this job map creator, it already knows what a job map is and what a job performer and what a target job is. So you don't even have to write the prompt. This is now, I think there's a fee on top of this now, but you can just generate a job map. And the only thing, you don't need to have that long prompt. You just have to say, I'm looking at home buyers buying a home, and you want to know that, and it'll actually generate a job map for you. The fourth step is to prioritize the outcomes. You can also create a prompt to generate the outcomes. This is a point in jobs to be done where we can move from qualitative to quantitative. In particular, the outcome statements you can put into a survey and quantify them. I haven't seen ChatGPT be able to do that at all so far. So you still need to find all the outcome statements, put them into a survey, and then put that survey out to a quantitative sample of people, hundreds or thousands if you want to go to thousands of people, and run that survey. But ChatGPT can actually help you generate outcome statements, right? And think through that process as well too. Of that, what that survey looks like. Again, you can't ask ChatGPT to prioritize this for your market. Only your market can prioritize these things for you. So far, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then the fifth step is what you want to do with the framework that I just proposed is you have a job map, you have outcomes, emotions, and job differentiators, and you prioritize each one of those buckets of things. After you go out and do the qualitative research, you extract all the elements and formulate them properly, do the survey. What you can then do is using a technique like a job story, which is basically just a communication technique, is you can plug in the prioritized elements from each one of those bits of the framework. So you take the top job step, or the job step that is the most promising in terms of an innovation opportunity. You take the differentiator, you take the outcome, you take the emotions, and you can actually synthesize that back down together. So step number 5 in my process is taking the prioritization that you did and combining it in this communication tool called a job story. And this is very much Mad Libs like. So when I'm at this job step and I'm under these conditions, which I call job differentiators, so those would be blanks. How do I know what to put in there? Well, I've done the prioritization, both qualitative and quantitative. So I've extracted all the things from my qualitative interviews, but then after I prioritize them, I can slot them back in here. This then becomes a very compact format for the pain point or the problem that you're trying to solve. And it's portable and it's really handy for teams to work with a job story. So I quite like that format. This doesn't replace doing a report or in workshops and stuff like that. It's just a really precise way to bring things down to a point and say, here's what we found from our research. It's nice. So the core process is scope your jobs to be done landscape, investigate, map, prioritize, and synthesize. And AI is particularly helpful with the first 3. It can help me create a stakeholder map. It can help me generate jobs that those stakeholders are trying investigation and help me extract quote unquote job steps and outcome statements and even emotions as well too. It can help me create a job map by, like we just saw there, finding the top job steps. What I don't think it can do yet is actually do this prioritization. This is a survey, a quantitative survey that you need to put out in the market and actually ask people. But it can help you synthesize things. I think though at this point in time, filling out the Mad Libs type thing, you might not need to go back to ChatGPT for that. So if we think about the process, a core process of jobs to be done in this manner, I think AI really is powerful up front, and particularly here in the middle, doing some of the. There's a short link there, jtbd.tk/AI. We did almost a year ago now, we did a webinar with Evan Shore, who's a product manager at Walmart. And he talks at length in this video. There's a YouTube video of this webinar that we did with Evan out there. And he uses jobs to be done in very, very inventive and unique ways. And I recommend checking that out. There's an article that link will point to. This one here, right here, will point to an interview with him. But at the bottom of that is this video. So if you want to think about, or if you want to hear about some other uses of jobs to be done in AI, you can check that out. JobLens is another place, and I think Brian's on the phone with us, the founder and purveyor of JobLens. Now, this is interesting because what he's helping you do is doing the analysis of interviews, right? So I think Brian's standpoint is you're going to go out and do the interviews, but what you can do is you can use AI to help you do the analysis, right? And through the lens of the jobs to be done, just think about my jobs to be done canvas. You know very precisely what you're looking for. I'm looking for job steps. What's a job step? You can define it very, very clearly, right? What's an outcome? I can define that very, very clearly. So if you calibrate the AI in a right way, and then you feed it interviews transcripts, for instance, you can get the extraction that would otherwise take a long time. I actually like doing qualitative data analysis. It just takes a long time. It was like what? Like a half an hour interview. No, sorry. An hour interview is going to generate 30 pages of transcribed text. And it's probably going to take you 4 hours to go through that by hand, right? So if you got 12 interviews, that's 360 pages of text. And what's the math on that? Like 6 days of analysis, right? Yeah. So Brian really helps here with the analysis part of it. Contrast that, I'm just showing you some things that are going on out in the field there. Mike Boysen over at Practical Jobs to be Done, he wants to eliminate jobs to be done interviews with artificial intelligence. And he has prompts that put my prompts to shame. His prompts are 5 times as long as mine. And he's calibrated them to a degree where if you want outcome statements, he can generate you 100 outcome statements, and they're all formulated very well, and they're calibrated in a good way. What he believes is we don't need to do the interviews at all. He just wants to do the quantitative survey, right? So he wants to eliminate. I mean, there's the title of his course: Eliminating Jobs to be Done Interviews with Artificial Intelligence. Contrasts Brian's approach a little bit. Here's my point. I think AI and jobs to be done have a natural fit for the reasons that I talked about at the beginning, but I don't think it replaces real world input and validation for several reasons. One of them is, well, I found right off the bat, I was using AI to help me. It was actually in this real estate space that I was talking about. I was using AI to help me think through some of the aspects of my framework, right? And even do some of the research. I went out and did a 15-minute interview, and I heard something within 5 minutes that AI didn't get. I'm like, okay, I talked to one real human being, and I'm already getting stuff that AI didn't think about. So, in the one place, on the one side, AI might get you 80% there or 90% there in good cases, right? But you're still missing some, right? So I want to do the interviews because of that. I also think that as a researcher, in order to interpret quantitative data or data in any manner, you need the context to be able to interpret that. And where does that sensibility come from? Where does the learning on how to interpret the data come from? And I think it comes from interfacing with the people that we serve, right? So I wouldn't want to remove the interviews because I would feel like, well, I wouldn't have any basis to judge whether an outcome statement generated by AI is rubbish or not. So I need that context in order for myself to be kind of an informed researcher. The other thing too is just, I don't know, it feels weird to me. If you say, hey, we have a customer-centric imperative, and probably most of you in your jobs, like at your companies you work for, like, let's be customer-centric. Nobody's not saying that these days, right? It's like, wait a minute, we're going to be customer-centric and not talk to customers? It's like, that doesn't fly with me either, right? So the way that I see it is, depending on the amount of time that you have and your bandwidth and things like that, you can definitely use jobs to be done like as another teammate. Okay, we're going to create a stakeholder map. Well, let's ask AI, but then we do it, right? So it just helps us, instead of having a blank piece of paper, it makes us do that part of the process quicker. Or even things like, let's think of a job map or the job steps. It helps you get there quicker. I would still want to go out and validate those, and even just have that peripheral sense of what the heck people are doing so that I know how to interpret that data. And AI can do that quicker, right? But for me, it also then makes you an informed researcher. Like I said, if you're in a domain where you have no idea what's going on, and you've already done some of this background work with AI, generating job steps, generating emotions and outcomes, you can have a better sense of where the person that you're talking to is coming from rather than learning from scratch. So I think that AI can actually help you become a more informed researcher. The other thing too is AI accelerates and it helps scale research. So I know there's lots of talk right now of like, well, is this going to replace our jobs and things like that? I'm not sure if that's the case. Maybe if you're brand new to research and you're just trying to find your first job, it might make that harder. But the way that I see it is that I've never worked in a company where we had enough researchers to do all the research that was needed. Do you guys, the companies that you're working for, do you have like, oh, we got this, we're in every project we should be providing insights about our market? Most of the researchers that I know, they're only doing a tenth of the projects that they should be doing. So I see the opportunity for us as researchers to be able to do more of it. But what that does is it flips the model, I think, right? It flips the model from us creating research briefs and going out and talking to 20 people to interpreting the results and figuring out what to do, right? But I still feel there's an opportunity. And here's the way that I see it too. I was reminded of this story. I don't know if it's made up or real, but once upon a time, a shoe company sent 2 salespeople to different regions in Africa to determine the potential market there. And they both reported back. And the one said, no one here wears shoes, there's no market for us. And the other one said, no one here wears shoes, there's a huge market here for us. Right? I kind of identify with the latter for user research. Like it's not like, oh, AI is going to take my job. It's no, AI is going to change your job, I think. And it's going to become more of an operations or an enablement role to help other people use AI to do the research that you can't possibly get to and that they don't know how to get to, and interpreting those results and keeping things on course. So I think there might be a flip in the profession, but I think it's also exciting because now there's a huge market. We can accelerate and scale our research. So now instead of just doing 1 out of 10 projects, maybe we can get through 5 of them or maybe all 10 of them as well too. So I'm still hopeful a little bit that AI isn't going to replace user research, but maybe change the flavor of what we do. That's all I had in terms of presentation, and I hope that we have some questions here. As I said, we just launched a new course over at the Jobs to be Done Toolkit. It's called the Foundations of Jobs to be Done. If you head over there, I mean, just launched on Tuesday. So some of the things that I talk about are in there: the canvas, the process, and we go over that in depth. And I know this was really quick. Then my purpose here wasn't to train you on this. I just wanted to kind of outline my approach and where and how I think AI can fit in.
No, this was awesome. This was really great. Thank you, Jim, for going through that.
Okay.
We have a lot of questions, a lot of activity in the chat while you were talking. I think this has generated a lot of interest.
I couldn't keep up with it, so help me. Is there a TLDR version of it or questions that you picked out?
Yeah, let me walk you through some of the questions. I want to first start with one that, well, it's kind of thematic. I've heard or I've read and kind of heard this from a few folks in the chat. You know, how should researchers think about the validity of the information they get from an LLM when they're doing job to be done analysis, especially when it comes to talking to stakeholders?
I think there's a couple of things there. One is, I think from the standpoint of the jobs to be done framework, I think you have to know what you're looking for in terms of things like formulation and categorization, and even like, is that the right element? I've asked ChatGPT for like job steps, and I got back like an outcome. Okay, I have a very like discerning eye, and I can see that immediately, but you have to still be able to figure that out. Is that an emotion or a social aspect? Like those distinctions you have to bring to the table still. I think the other thing is, and this is one reason why I think we need to go out in the field and talk to actual real people, is that you can use that as a way to validate things. So if I go out in the field, I'm going to generate a job map before I go out in the field and talk to people as my cheat sheet. In fact, that's almost my discussion guide, right? But as they're talking, I'm also validating that thing. So I'm using AI to generate a job map for me, and I'm going to go out and talk to people, and then I'm going to call bullshit on AI as they're talking to me, right? The other thing is, the interesting point here too, is that if you do move into a quantitative phase, like let's say you launch a survey around the outcomes, which by the way, you can do with the job steps as well too. But let's say you do an important satisfaction survey. If somebody ranks something as important, they just validated it, and it doesn't matter where it came from.
So
If I have an outcome statement in my survey and somebody says this is a 10 for me, that it doesn't matter if that came from AI. They just validated that is something they're trying to achieve.
So it's like there's two patterns I'm hearing here. One is it helps you reason through things, kind of breaking down your own thinking and applying that model. But the other one is generating hypotheses. And should we think about this as hypothesis grade versus evidence grade?
It's a little bit more than a hypothesis, actually. I think
Okay.
it's real stuff. It's real stuff that you get out that is putting out. It's real job steps. It's real emotional aspects. It's real outcome stuff. You still don't want to take it on face value though. Like I will ask it to generate outcome statements and copy and paste them over, but I evaluate those all with my eyeballs, and I want to hear those when I go talk to people and then validate them with the survey if that's what I'm doing as well too, right?
You kept mentioning this notion of human judgment, human judgment, human
Yeah.
judgment. That's almost a secret sauce to practitioners, it sounds like, to apply this well.
Yes.
Do you have advice for folks who, because it's easy to scan. I've used,
Yeah.
LLMs, and it's easy to see all this output and go,
Yep.
wow,
Yep.
this is a lot of stuff.
Right.
What advice do you have for people who to do that?
Yeah, do interviews. That sounds recursive and
Almost
contradictory.
contradictory, but
Yeah, but it's kind of like, I don't know if you remember, like I'm thinking about like high school calculus class. What was it? The derivative. Like we did it the long way so that you saw, and then oh, by the way, there's a shortcut. You just take
yeah,
this number and multiply it
integrals
by
versus derivatives.
but
Yeah.
they teach you the long way so that you understand what's under the hood before you learn the shortcut, right? And that's why I'm still hopeful for the field and for all of you here, all of the professionals on the line, is like you need to bring all that to the table when you're using AI, right? Because that's the human judgment. But then if we were to take that away, then I would really be worried about the human judgment part of it, right? And of course, for me, it's also knowing the framework that you're using. Like I'm I know exactly what a job step is and how it should look and form it.
Right.
And it's practicing that. Again, if AI is doing everything for you and you don't have that practice, you're not going to have that discerning eye. So I would worry about that. And here's the thing: I don't worry about us. I worry more about a product manager.
Yeah.
Right. Product manager
Right.
needs to find what they should prioritize for the next sprint. And they go, oh, Jim's got his canvas out there and it's AI generated, and boom, and they get rubbish, but they don't know it's rubbish. Right. That's what I worry about.
This is, I think, another case for cross-functional, multidisciplinary teams.
Yes. Yeah.
This is a collaborative
Right.
thing.
So, and that's what I was saying. I think research you're not going to be like, I got 20 interviews to do in 2 weeks. Like, it's not going to be, and I got 400 pages of transcribed text I got to go through. It's going to be, I got 5 project managers who don't know what the heck they're doing. I think that's going to be the problem of user research in the future. And you're going to be much more on the enablement side of things, plus still doing some of the research, right? Because you got to keep your own chops up as well too, and pressing the flesh out in the wild.
No, this is I think great perspective. I really appreciate you walking me through
Okay.
that. Let me get to a couple of other questions from the group. One that I'm going to talk about. Do you find it helpful to understand the industry to make it more effective or to make the prompts better? or what do you do if you don't know the industry well? Kind of, when you're looking at it from an expert standpoint, you can look at it through a different lens versus something like we were describing before, where you're just a novice and you're learning things about a new
Yeah.
industry.
So some of you probably work in your companies for years now, or even longer, and you're very, very familiar with the domain and what people are trying to get done. You probably even know customers by name and stuff like that. And in that case, using ChatGPT might just be like a little like check, like, oh, did I get all the stakeholders right, or did I get all the steps? But you already know that. If you're a consultant though, or if you're working in a new company or in a new field, or even just in a very, very complex field, I don't know. I just find it gives me so much more peripheral vision before you go out in the field, right? You're not just there with your research questions and a blank notebook. You already have a sense of what this job performer is, what they're trying to get done, what their potential outcomes are. And it becomes, well, what you can then do is you don't have to build the model from scratch. You can actually go and validate it, A, and B, you can dive deeper on spots that you're less certain about. You know what I'm saying? So let's just take buying and selling a home. If I created a job map from that, you might be like, oh yeah, we did a research project on what was one of those steps that it spit out? I forget. One of those earlier steps. Like, oh, we did a research project on that. We know everything about that thing. Oh, but this thing down here doing the home visits, I'm going to spend more of my time in the interviews focused on this part of the job map because we already have coverage elsewhere. You know what I mean? It can help you direct your attention when you go out in the field so that you can get even deeper. You're not a blank. It's not a blank sheet of paper that you're building a model up from scratch. You have a draft model and you can use that to find out where do I need to go deeper.
It's almost like helping illuminate your blind spots so you can
I
kind
think
of,
so. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
because at that point in time, you don't know what you don't know,
right,
right? If you go
right.
on a field with a blank piece of paper, I just heard like two, even if it's even if it's a big sample size, you still don't know what you don't know, right?
Getting back to that, do you have any practical suggestions on how you might validate or check the work of what's being produced by ChatGPT?
Yeah, bring it back out to
Testing?
bring it back out to stakeholders. I mean, I would recommend to do that anyway. Like after I recommend that if you do a jobs to be done project, right? What am I going to end up with? A job map, a list of emotional and social aspects, a list of outcome statements, and job differentiators. I have gone back out in the field, particularly with the job map, but also with the outcome statements. I talk about that in a case study in my book, where we had the outcome statements. And before we ran the survey, we actually validated those with people, right? So it's the same question. I mean, how do you validate information you gather from, a manual, quote unquote, manual interviews? It's the same question.
I think we've got time for one more question. It's something that always comes up with AI, and it's around biases.
Yeah.
And if you've kind of built in biases in the LLM,
Yeah.
are there things that researchers could do as part of their practice to be a check or a mitigation against those biases,
Yeah.
or fail to introduce their own biases as part of their work?
Right. Yeah. No, I think a lot of those things that we talked about, right? Being informed about the technique that you're using, but also the field that you're in to the degree
Mhm.
possible, validating that with actual users. But I would say on the other side, we're biased too. We're all biased, right? And
Yeah.
that's an aspect. It's a really interesting aspect because ChatGPT has other biases, but they don't overlap with our biases. So it's actually looking at ChatGPT there's a nice little bias check there of our own biases as well.
That is a great point. You can treat ChatGPT as a check against your own bias.
Yeah,
Um,
because we're all biased, right? We all go out with research and we're all biased.
and
So
and I think it's important to recognize that and kind of to
exactly.
build that into your protocols.
That's what I always say. Don't
Yeah.
pretend like we're not biased. We're biased, but in fact, you can embrace the bias sometimes. And I've advocated for that. What ChatGPT does, it can be a reality check for you actually too. In the other direction.
One last question. ChatGPT does get the lion's share of coverage and talk.
Yeah.
Are there other models? There are actually new models coming out all the time.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are new providers. Do you have any advice on other models that the
I,
researchers
I
should consider?
haven't used too much of other things. There was a Claude AI, I think is a different
Anthropic.
LLM. Some people say that works better actually than I was using ChatGPT 4,
Yeah.
and I find that works. I haven't explored too much outside of that. So yeah, Google Bard. Yeah, I haven't compared those for the results. And part of the reason is because it at some point it doesn't matter to me because I'm the arbitrator, right? I determine whether it's a job step or not. I determine how it's going to be formulated. I determine if I validated that with enough people in the market in the end. You know what I mean? So I'm using ChatGPT or any AI tool, let's put it that way, as an accelerator for me. But ultimately,
Yeah.
it's my
Yeah.
research. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. I appreciate you drawing that distinction because the other thing to mention is we're talking about jobs to be done. That is
Yeah,
a part of a wider set of things that you're going to do
totally.
as a researcher and a wider set of
Yeah,
activities. You haven't even touched on summative, like doing summative work. Like,
yeah,
well, you talked a little bit about it, but there
yeah.
are all these other things that
Oh,
LLMs
totally. Yeah,
and so
yeah.
I think it's important for folks to know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people have taken like a design sprint and done a whole design sprint
Right.
in ChatGPT. Or if you look at the case study that I point to with Evan Shore back on the previous slide, let me just pop back up there. He's a product manager. So he said, okay, extract all these jobs to be done stuff for me. And then he went further and he said, generate ideas for a solution. Then he went to what would be SEO keywords that would be best to market that solution.
Yeah.
What are marketing campaigns around that solution? He literally took his job as a product manager from insight, understanding the market, to he has to go to market, right? He's not just building products. He also has to price them and sell them. He did every aspect of that. He used ChatGPT to accelerate his thinking.
You just raised an interesting point. What happens when, as a researcher or a product manager, you develop these skills and all these tactical things that you're having to do diminish in their importance, and you're left with all of this data to now sort through, comprehend, make
Yeah.
sense of. It makes for an interesting
Yeah.
jobs. Jim, thank you very much for coming and talk to us today. If we could give him all a round of applause, thank you so much.
Sure.
This was great, and I think the judging by the attendance and all the conversation, this is just an exciting topic for a group. We
Yeah.
probably will reach out to you to ask you back.
Sure. Yeah. And,
Um,
and and check out the toolkit. I also got the job lens back up here. You might want to check Brian's website as well too. But like I said, over here at the JTBD toolkit.com.
awesome, awesome.
And
Thank you
and
very
feel free
much.
to connect with me on LinkedIn, by the way, too, because I'm available for like talks and stuff like that if you need a guest speaker inside of your company.
Right on, right on. I've seen your talk before at our company, and I'm sure we'll see you
Yeah.
again.
Oh, you were there. When I heard Microsoft, I was wondering if you were there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It was the
Okay.
we had you for DevDiv, and so
Right.
thank you again for coming.
Yep.
Sorry, forgot to turn this back on for happy hour.
Sorry, Adriana. Did I say that name? Did I say it?
Yes, you did. You did. One of the thoughts I had as the previous researchers mentioned about the hackathon and everything was I'm very interested in learning how AI tools will help with research from here on in the future. In fact, I brought this up in our group, in our two section of the little groups we had, because while we were talking about AIs, people sometimes they focus on ChatGPT, or sometimes in other things that are parallel, but not things that really optimize the work of a researcher, right? In my previous job experience, I had an opportunity to work with two tools that were really helpful in optimizing my work. One was in writing. English is not my first language, so it did help me a lot
Oh, interesting.
in
Yeah, yeah,
reporting
totally.
and presentation writing, and even summarizing and synthesizing information. But the other one was in data analysis, because we had a lot of surveys that went out that sometimes the surveys came before the research itself. We reach out to our own clients and then pulled some information from them, and that usually was what opened doors for research to be done. But it was, you get 5,000 answers from open-ended surveys. It becomes a mass of information to read through. So I use that tool largely, but I would like to learn of other people's practices and what is being used in the industry as a researcher that is helpful to you. So I know really well the tools that I use, but I'd like to hear from other people. What are they doing and what are you guys are using and recommending at large? Even you're not endorsing a product, but you're saying, well, this type of tool, what would you have to contribute to the bucket of AI tools for research?
Yeah, I've got my own thoughts, but I want to invite other people to jump in if you've got experience or things to share.
Silence.
Okay. Well, just to
Sure.
get, go ahead.
Hi, this is Lauren. I'll follow up in the Slack channel with maybe a snapshot because I think it's too much to take in right now. But I work with a team that has been testing multiple generative AI tools so that we could collectively get better at anticipating hallucinations, anticipating accuracy, and make recommendations to each other about prompting. So often in our research or at the beginning of a project, we will hold up multiple windows with the same prompt in multiple tools and just collectively test and look. And what we have learned so far is even with the same prompt on a different day, you might get something slightly different. Hasn't been so wildly different that we've been like concerned, and whatever we're working on has been safe enough that it's not, anything proprietary. We're being careful because they are open tools. Some of the tools are free, some of them are paid for. We're really trying to test our own user experience with the tools so that we can better understand what the outcomes are. But maybe for a follow-up, I can go into more detail.
That's actually a really interesting way to approach that, especially since, you've got different, it's like the LLMs share a common evolutionary path, but they have bolted on top of them different application layers that they carry forward information in different ways. They censor some things filter some things out. They all have their own sort of secret sauce on top of this common base.
The UI is different for some of them. So
Right.
you see and consume content in different ways. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, the other thing about the generative nature of this is that, not without getting too much in the weeds about how LLMs work, you can go to the exact same ChatGPT, the exact same LLM, run the same prompt 2 or 3 times, and you'll get little differences. Sometimes they'll be bigger than others, but it's a little bit different than a search engine. It's not really right to think about it the same way you think of as a search engine. And because of that, it's almost like you're testing the same thing over and over and over again. When you get that clustering or that, consistency, you get a little more confidence in that response. And if you did it across LLMs, even more confidence. The other thing I'll mention is that, I think we're at the very beginning. It's kind of the calm before the storm, before a lot of tool providers start doing what I just described. They'll take this little piece of an LLM like OpenAI's services or someone else's, and then bolt on top of it services that will help summarize transcripts, for example. Ask Marvin does that, and I think a couple of other providers do something similar, or help you generate study guides, discussion guides based off of some inputs. Like, I feel like this is going to be one of the things that we as researchers are probably going to be asked to do, which is to do exactly what Lauren was describing. Help us evaluate tools, help us make a decision on a partner to work with. And this is another reason to become familiar with prompt engineering, but also just kind of the nature of how LLMs work. And so if you haven't already, definitely check out some of the articles on Medium. I'm definitely going to drop a bibliography, a little list of articles that I've been using with our work that are both like open, like they're open to the public, but they talk about just some of the different techniques and methodologies and also some of the tool providers. So that way you can be armed with just some of that experience. I think that it'll also be fun to play around with. That's the other thing about this. Once you start to play with it and you get just that little bit of feedback, it becomes actually a fun exercise. It becomes a fun thing to work with. And Adriana, you asked about tools. Ask Marvin
Yeah.
is one I have the most experience with. It is not an endorsement. It's just the one I have the most experience with. It does what it is it's like a QDA software. It helps you do qualitative data analysis and tagging and that kind of thing. But what it also does is it generates summaries off of transcripts. So it's one of those little bots you bring in to listen to your conversation or to your interview, and then it kind of creates this summary, and it allows you to also do summative work as you go. What I can tell you about my experience with it is that it it the it has a hard time dealing with multiple speakers. It gets confused who's talking sometimes. And so that becomes a little bit of a challenge. But if it's a couple of people, the summaries are, I think, relatively good. But what I found is that I find myself constantly going back and checking over it. And so
Yeah.
this question of like, is it really adding a lot of efficiency if you're double checking it? And that might just be my habit. Your mileage may vary.
No, I think you're right on it.
Yeah.
My niche is actually international research. So when you're talking about transcription, I can point it out. I've done research, same question, same project in the US, Canada, and Australia, and the transcription cannot pick the English from other countries because
Oh, interesting.
the accent,
Accent.
different words,
So you
and
get bias. Yeah.
it becomes a mess. And then it also does not pick up other languages. Like the countries that I was over Brazil, Mexico, and South America for Spanish, and then I did Australia and Canada and US for English. And I could only use all the marvelous tools that we have in the US. I basically could only use them in the US. They are not equipped yet to handle accents, to handle nuances of language, to handle different vocabularies. And so there's a lot to learn from AI, but AI also, there's a lot to embrace, to be global in such level of application. But yeah, I'm all in for it.
Yeah, the international story is a little disappointing because I work a lot with developers, and there's just a huge, the United States or the English speaking world, sorry, the English speaking world is a fraction of the audience that we need to be reaching for all of our product development, frankly. And so this is one of those things where, we were talking about bias before. It's kind of not just entrenching what it can do, its capabilities, if you will. But it's also kind of entrenching the way English speakers, speak about analogies and idioms and things like that turn into part of that summary. And so all of those things are kind of getting baked into it. So those are things I think as researchers, it would be helpful to be able to express and talk about with our stakeholders when these questions about how to situate and trust the results we get from LLMs, especially when they're coming from anything outside, the United States or the English speaking world.
Yeah, if
Sorry, I didn't mean to
anyone
ramble
wants to
there.
talk about international experience, hit me up on LinkedIn. I have a boatload of stories.
I have a question while we were talking about different tools and the different models. I last worked in fintech and we were so locked down about
Yeah, I bet.
anything we could use. So is that, and just being a total newbie, you could just say yes or no, is that really a big concern with choosing a model and choosing a tool if it's not, if you're really in a very locked down industry?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in finance and we have no access. We're not allowed any access. We're just getting it, Mike, I don't know, maybe the next quarter, but the company has not allowed any kind of AI access.
Is it the honor system or are they actually blocking you?
Well, I'm on a Mac, so I have a little bit like I'm under the radar, so I can get on, but the system blocks people.
Yeah.
They absolutely cannot get on.
So that, I mean, for Lauren, who's doing evaluations, that might be something to consider because, unless I'm going to use it for my personal life it's just, it kills me to like, oh, I was always suggesting tools even for viz design, you know, and wireframes, and they're like, oh no, well, you can't use that, just forget about it. So
Although there are some emerging enterprise tools that allow for they're emerging, so, you know, whatever. But companies are catching on to the fact that organizations, especially those with, you know, high risk, whether it's healthcare, finance, need constraints and need safety. And so I know that they are emerging, and good to start playing with some of the, you know, open tools in your own personal space so that you are at least somewhat familiar and playing around and can ask good questions when those safer tools do come aboard. Really quickly, Adriana, I wanted to share Otter AI. I think I put it in the chat before I got booted out of here. I was using it years ago for video transcription because I wanted to we needed to expedite our transcription. And what you can do with that tool is actually correct the transcriptions and include a library. And I too worked with pronunciation and accent differences, not in that context internationally, but it was a lot of slang and it was a lot of young people, and it was really hard sometimes to pick up. But because you could go in and help tune the machine by correcting it, giving it the terminology, accepting or approving it, it got smarter and got better at predicting than the next, you know, interaction. And so I'd be really curious for you to check it out. It's been super helpful for me with, now they've generated action items and summaries, and it's just gotten to be such a more robust tool, even the free version. But of course, with anything free, you're giving it a lot of content and a lot of data. So be careful.
Yeah, that was the problem I had. That my company didn't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford to put the free information there, like all my interviews there. But yeah, but I'll check it for my personal.
Yeah.
So we're running right at time. Any other hot topics or any other insights, ideas from the breakout sessions that folks wanted to raise before we break?
Well, maybe no. I'm curious whether we could connect with some people who want to actually try out Jim's prompts and you know, the whole kind of stuff that he presented, try it out in actual project work maybe in the near future, because I'm thinking about doing that, but you know, I'd be more confident if I could have an exchange with at least one or two other people who are doing the same thing.
Okay.
And correct myself a little bit on the way, because I don't want to just run into all the problems without finding out what the problems are before. So, you know, if anybody likes to do this kind of stuff, try it out in the near future, connect with me and we can have a little exchange. That would be great.
Definitely look for some messages from me in the Slack channel. If you're not already connected, definitely check that out. That's a great place for us to do this. And what I'll do is I'll try to find some of those prompts that Jim was referencing. Some of them look actually pretty familiar, and we'll see where things go. We'll share it with the rest of the community.
Right.
All right. So that's a wrap. Thank you all very much for sticking around. This is been a great event. It's been my first time as a host, and so I appreciate the chance to meet with everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening wherever you are. And if, like you said, if you have a chance, definitely fill out a survey. Let us know what you think, and see you all on Slack, or see you all at the next event.
I believe that's the first time you've done this.
Yeah, great job.
All right. Thank you. See you all.